Juice is just a tool. It is very powerful and very immediate, and it can be communicated very well in presentations. If you haven't seen them, you should watch The Art of Screenshake by JW and Juice It or Lose It by Martin Jonasson and Petri Purho before continuing with this video. Juice is very alluring. It promises much and asks very little, and as game developers we are prone to looking for the next big thing, for the magic formula that will make our game successful, whatever that means. Many people, myself included, have believed to have found that in Juice, and we have spent many hours choosing our games and GIFs, reaping the immediate benefits of it. Because GIFs on Twitter get more likes and retweets when they are juicy, and people recognize the effort and they respond positively to it. Slot machines are juicy. They are in fact giving an insane amount of feedback to very little input. When you put your money into them, they shake and rumble, they blink and beep, and then they stop. And if you put in more money, they will rumble again. And the juice in slot machines is crude and effective. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the most juicy game I ever played. Every single action you take in that game makes the game react and move subliminally. It's not as aggressive and obvious as a slot machine, as it is designed to consume longer instances of your time. It does not want to overwhelm you, it wants to soothe you, and it makes all of your actions feel very, very good. And the juice in Red Dead Redemption is pornographic. Somewhere in between slot machines and Red Dead Redemption, there are mobile games whose feedback is A/B tested. Literal scientists are checking huge amounts of data to determine the shade of green that is just a little bit more likely to make you click a certain button. They test the long-term effects of people clicking that button at specific times, and they adjust the shade of green accordingly. The juice in mobile games is science. All of these overly simplified examples use juice to achieve the same goal, to keep you playing. That is not an inherently bad thing, and if we want to sell our games, we would do well to apply juice to them. We should just be careful when doing so. I have fallen deep into the rabbit hole of juice. Every prototype I made had to feel good. Whenever I thought of a new core mechanic, I would juice it. I would make it feel better and more satisfying than it actually was. Instead of exploring its thematic or mechanical implication, I would make sure that first and foremost, it felt good to use immediately. And then, a short while later, I would play the prototype and think that it felt good, but that it was kind of empty. There was nothing in there that I could connect to, and if people on Twitter responded positively to GIFs of that prototype, I would work on it a bit more, adding a little bit of stuff, and then making sure that that stuff also felt good immediately. The problem with this approach was that, to me, the games always ended up being undefined things. The moment-to-moment gameplay was very clear, but I never knew how they would work on a larger scale. I never knew what they were about or why people should play them, other than the fact that playing them felt good on its own. I was looking at game development from a very small perspective. Instead of planning games as concrete experiences or products, I assumed that the game as a whole would emerge out of the prototype. And until that happened, I had to make sure that the smallest, most directly accessible parts of the game felt good. And then, of course, I got lost in the jungle of possibilities. I lost focus and I didn't know what to do with the prototype, what I wanted to say with it, and ultimately abandoned it for a new one. The next prototype, of course, would also have to be very, very juicy. The act of adding juice to your game is in itself juicy, and you should be careful to not accidentally build your own personal slot machine, where you get small joy from giving little input. Now I have come to see juice as a tool. It's relatively cheap and it's very powerful, but it is only a tool. And I can use that tool in more ways than to just create immediate gratification or to keep people playing. I can use juice as a tool of expression. All of the subtle and not so subtle techniques of juice can be used to express stuff. You can use the amount of screen shake in your game to reinforce a specific part of a story. You can change the camera feedback to express character development. You can add and remove juice in response to player actions. And you can do a lot of other cool shit once you abandon the belief that the only thing juice is good for is encouraging players to interact with your game on a surface level. I truly believe that in order for us to better understand the potential of games as expressive media, we need to consider that juice, like mechanics and systems and art and sound design and music, is just a means to an end, and not the end in itself.